Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tuesday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. John Schmeelk, Matthew Citak with you. Apologize for the late start. We had Jim Nagy on draft season this week, and he was working the phones a little bit, so he was 15 minutes late, so I was 15 minutes late to this. I apologize. You'll see that interview on draft season when I post, I guess, Wednesday afternoon, Pearson, right when that usually goes up. So check it out. We actually broke some news during that, so we'll have to just stay tuned for that, folks. 201-939-4513. That's the number if you want to get in and talk some Giants football with us. I know we only took a couple calls yesterday, so we'll try to take a lot more today. Paul and I gave our take on the game on Sunday. Citak, before we get to the calls, your thoughts on what we saw on Sunday afternoon?
Not too many thoughts. I will say a better performance from the defense than I was expecting. The run D especially. I mean, We've spoken at length about how much the run D has struggled this season. And quite frankly, I thought Alvin Kamara was going to have a breakout game. And Giants very much held him in check. 17 carries for 44 yards. Kendry Miller added 10 carries for 32 yards. Like, that was a much better performance than the run D that I was expecting. Now, the Giants offense, unfortunately, did not do much on its end. Drew Lock, only 21 of 49. First of all, 49 pass attempts. Crazy.
Yeah.
And only completing 21, not the ideal completion percentage, but Tyrone Tracy, solid game. Unfortunate way for the game to end with that blocked field goal. Yeah, I don't have much to add.
Just figured out another way to not come up with a win in a close game, right? They figured out a bunch of different ways to do that so far.
Yeah, that was a new one for this season.
It was a new one. They had a couple of missed field goals against the Bengals in the fourth quarter, which hurt them in that game. Another new one. Special teams this time rearing its ugly head. We did get some news from Brian Dable yesterday on the injury front. Why don't you run through some of that stuff for us when he talked to the media?
On the injury front yesterday, I don't even remember.
Running ankle. He's probably going to be long term. They said Schmitz, I think, should week to week for him.
Week to week, but sounded like he didn't expect Runyon to be available this Sunday.
I would be very surprised by that.
Obviously, you never know, but that's the sense. Coach Dable's never going to rule somebody out on Monday unless it's like a serious injury. But Runyon would not expect to see him this week. I guess you never know, but he said pretty sore. He said that Tyler Nubin is dealing with an ankle. We'll see where he's at. He said John Michael Schmitz dealing with a neck injury, sore, but he used the words looks okay. So I would say seems to be a more positive outlook on Schmitz and potentially Nubin. Runyon, not so much. And he said that Drew Lock will be the starting quarterback, assuming he is healthy enough to play.
Yeah, he had a lower body thing late in that game to keep an eye on. And Schmitz, you hope he can go with the neck.
Dable used the word sore to describe a lot of guys.
Yeah, and look, you can not have a serious injury and still be in enough pain or have enough weakness. Remember, neck stingers, it's not just pain. That you can get weakness in joints and limbs and stuff like that with the stinger situation. So we'll see who's able to go in the game. Who's able to come back. Maybe Jermaine Illuminor's back this week. Remember, he was able to practice a little bit late last week, so maybe he can make his way back on the field. We'll wait and see about that.
I would expect tomorrow's injury report to be pretty lengthy.
Yeah, and then the corners, too, is something to keep an eye on, right?
Yeah.
The Giants are missing their top 3 cornerbacks in that game. Trey Hawkins is going to be out for the remainder of the year. Unfortunately, after he had a nice little reappearance in that game, very physical, very good tackling in that game. But Phillips, Flott, and Banks will be 3 guys we'll keep an eye on heading into this Ravens game.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Ravens coming off their bye, you'd think that they would be on the relatively healthy side. I mean, it's week 15, so no team is perfectly healthy, but coming off a week off, they will probably be a little bit healthier than the Giants are going into this game.
Well, it's hard to be less healthy than the Giants. I told Tino this on the show yesterday. The Giants, depending on how you want to look at it, they're normal 22 starters, not just from the start of the year, but from like 2 weeks ago. 10 of them were left on the field. 10 in the second half of that game. And Greg Van Roy was playing out of position. So they just were not many guys left in the run. The defensive line is not going to get healthier. I mean, these guys are, Nacho maybe. He did not practice last week at all. So usually when you don't get any practice time, it might be tough to come back the next week. We'll have to see. DJ Davidson was put on the injured reserve list, so he's not going to be back. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence out for the year. So even that second group of defensive linemen, I thought Elijah Chapman played pretty well. Elijah Garcia had some moments in the game. So those guys stepped up, but a little bit of a different conversation, and we'll get more into the game later in the week. But the Ravens are a whole nother challenge with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke a lot last week about how the Saints want to run the football and rank in the top 10 in almost every rushing metric. Well, if they want to run the football, then I don't even know how to describe what the Ravens want to do. That times however many.
The Ravens don't want to run the football. They will run the football, and they will successfully pound you to death with their running game.
Yes, I mean, Derrick Henry is probably the most, at least physically imposing running back in the NFL, has been for years. Lamar Jackson is probably the best mobile quarterback in the NFL. You know, those two are they're gonna run the ball a lot, especially, you know, the Ravens, again, coming off a bye. They lost the week prior to that, though, and I'm sure many of you saw this, and if you didn't, Lamar Jackson, I believe it was right after the game or the next day, said that even his mom was cursing him out for not running the ball as much as he should have, and he basically said, we cannot wait to get back on the field against the Giants and run the football. So I expect that establishing the run will be the top priority for the Ravens on Sunday. But yeah, we can get into that a little bit later in the week. I will say, though, given the injuries to the defensive line, it just makes their performance against the Saints rushing attack even more impressive.
Yep.
I mean, the defensive tackles that were on the field predominantly in that game were, as you just mentioned, Elijah Chapman, Elijah Garcia, Corey Durden, Casey Rogers. I mean, Riley is the only one that's been on the active roster all season. The other three were all signed or brought into the mix within the last week or two, and they all played a lot. Or Elijah Chapman, I'm sorry, he's been on the team, but all those other guys are new, and they made a really big impact. And I will say, one big positive out of the game, in my eyes, was the performance of Micah McFadden. I thought this might have been his best game as a Giant, or one of his best games, because he had a handful of games last year that were really good, but it is impressive and difficult to come up with 5 tackles for loss, which is what he did, especially against...
He played a great game.
A running back like Alvin Kamara, so just tip my cap to Micah for that performance.
Yeah, no problem. 201-939-4513. Anything else before we get to the calls that you want to touch on?
Yeah, one other thing. It's not Giants related, though.
What do you got? What do you got?
The big baseball news that unfortunately I wasn't on the show yesterday to talk about, but we can just leave it quick because I'm not one to rub things in other people's faces. I believe in karma, and so I don't want.
Well, I would hope not, considering he's never actually done anything for your team.
I don't want anything.
I would think as a Met fan,
karma.
I would think as a Met fan with your history of free agent signings, you'd be a little humble as to the positive impact it might have on the team.
I'm not even gonna go down that road. Not gonna touch that. Just for karma's sake, I'm not gonna rub it in your face. But Juan Soto, welcome to Queens. We are very lucky and happy to have you.
I will say this. Given how close the offers were, I am surprised that he left. But you always said he was going to go for all the money. I guess his connection to the Yankees was not as strong as he might have indicated at times during the season.
That's what I was trying to warn. I don't know about you specifically, but Yankee fans in general. I'm like, he was there for 1 year. I'm sure he had a great time, but it's not the same as, Judge, who was a homegrown talent and obviously had a very deep connection with the Yankees. Soto was there for 1 year.
I know, but when you
and
know
he certainly
a place
enjoyed
is good,
that's true.
To go to a place where you have no idea what it's going to be like, that's always a risk.
I guess Steve Cohen is pretty persuasive.
I suppose that he is. And we'll see how that works out.
We can leave it at that.
201-939-4513. Let's go to Aiden in New Jersey. He'll lead us off today. Hi, Aiden.
Hi, I got a little bit of a theory. First, I'll say that, I'm disappointed. Everybody is, how the offense has been this year. Neighbors, he just hasn't been the same since he's come back with his injuries. Obviously, he's upset with the targets. And, the way that Jalen Hyatt is being used to, it's really disappointing. And no matter who's in that quarterback. And I'll tell you why I want the Giants to do this offseason. So, I'm really not a fan of the quarterbacks going to this draft. I really feel high about to put these guys. I realize the team's not strictly Malik Neighbors and Jalen Hyatt, but I think the Giants should sign Jameis Winston. I feel like Jameis, I mean, he really connected well with the wide receiver one in Tampa with Mike Evans, and now in Cleveland, Jerry Jeudy did nothing when he was with Denver, and then also while Deshaun Watson was in, and now he's playing the best football of his career, like as of lately. What do you guys think about bringing Jameis Winston? And I'm not saying it has to be a long-term solution, but just to get the Giants back on track and have something going. Like, obviously, you guys have talked on the show about you could bring in a quarterback, and obviously, if it doesn't work out, a rookie, that you can draft somebody the next year. Obviously, Jameis wouldn't have to start the whole season, but just to have somebody, some veteran leadership, I feel like it would be a great move for the Giants.
I'm going to let Captain Jameis here. I know Citak is a big Jameis fan, so I'm going to let him go here first.
So, yes, I do love Jameis. I think he is one of, if not the most entertaining players in the NFL.
He's not boring. He's not boring.
He is a walking just quote. I mean, every single week, pregame, during the game, postgame, he says something that just cracks you up. Now, while from an entertainment standpoint, it would be great to have him. From a football standpoint, I understand the risks of bringing him in. I mean, there's a reason why they call it the Jameis Winston experience, because he could throw for 500 yards and 3 touchdowns, but also throw 3 interceptions, including 2 pick sixes.
It is a full experience.
Like, there's
ups and downs, lefts and rights.
One player in NFL history that has thrown 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in a season.
It's
and
incredible.
it is Jameis Winston.
It's the best.
So while I wouldn't, I guess, depending on whether or not the Giants decide to address the quarterback position in the draft in some capacity, then I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to Jameis coming in as a bridge quarterback.
Yeah, I would be fine with that too.
But in my opinion, I don't think you want to bring someone in. And this is talking about any sort of veteran quarterback on that level. If you draft someone for more than a year, maybe a 2-year deal, definitely nothing more than that, because you don't want to block the guy that you just potentially picked in the draft. So,
and of course, it's important to note he is a member of the Browns right now, and obviously this is not meant to tamper or anything like that. If he ends up becoming available as a free agent,
because I think there is a good chance that Cleveland makes a very strong effort to keep him, given the success that he's had. So, yeah, this is all assuming he even hits free agency, which, quite frankly, I think there's a decent chance he does not.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you think if the Giants brought him in, there would be any chance that he could turn into, end up being signed and go? I mean, we're jumping into hypotheticals here, but that he could turn into a little bit of a Sam Darnold or a Geno Smith?
Thank you, Aiden. Appreciate the call. Here's the problem. He has shown in multiple spots, and how old is Jameis Winston now? Was he 29?
He's got to be older than that, right?
32? You tell me. Tell me how old Jameis Winston is. However old Jameis Winston is, he has not shown that he's grown out of some of those turnovers and mistakes over the course of his career. How old is he?
He turns 31 next month.
Okay, so he's 30 years old. That was close. He has not really shown that he has grown out of making those mistakes, despite the fact he's landed in a bunch of different places. So I don't know if you could sign him thinking he's a long-term solution, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would say you can't really compare him to what Sam Darnold is doing in Minnesota this year, because Sam Darnold is doing this year, he probably will get, whether it's from Minnesota or another team, he will get a legitimate contract, sort of what we saw from Baker Mayfield after his first season of success with the Buccaneers.
I think it's going to be closer to Daniel Jones's contract, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I just meant, we're talking about $30+ million a season probably.
Yes.
I don't think Jameis is going to get close to that next year. I mean,
no.
He'll get a nice sized contract, probably more than what your standard backup quarterback contract is.
And Darnold's just 27 too, as opposed to
Darnold's a few years younger, and Darnold's just shown a lot more growth this season. While what you said about Jameis is exactly right. He's he's still a gunslinger. He can still throw for 400 yards a game, but he still has those same turnover-worthy plays that we saw from him almost a decade ago, and it's still there. And I think this is his 10th season in the NFL, and in that regard, there hasn't, even this year where he's having success, there hasn't been an improvement in that area.
Yeah,
like it's not the same as like what we saw from Geno Smith. Geno Smith, what was it, 2 seasons ago, looked significantly better than any other version of Geno Smith we had seen before. This Jameis is, maybe a slightly better version of the Jameis we've seen in recent years, but it's not like a stark improvement from what we've seen from him already.
201-939-4513. Jonathan in Westchester joins us next. Hi, Jonathan.
Hey, how are you guys?
We're good.
Good. How are you?
Good. So I wanted to talk to you today about Joe Schoen. As you know, we're approaching the 3-year anniversary of the 2022 draft, which was Joe's first draft. And when we analyze this draft class, I don't think we're really being fair to Schoen unless we take into account the insane number of injuries that the class suffered, many of them very early on. So that year, Schoen made 11 picks. Of those 11 picks, 4 of them actually tore their ACLs that rookie season. McKeithen in the preseason FanFest scrimmage, Darian Beavers in the preseason game, DJ Davidson tore his ACL in Week 5 in London against the Packers, and Wandell in Week 11 versus the Lions. Then you also had Josh Zudu missed 9 games in 2022, the final 9 games with a neck injury, and Bellinger with the eye injury. So, I don't want to make excuses, but just to be fair to Schoen, I think it is something that it was a headwind that needs to be taken into account here, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of the injuries from that rookie class, I mean, you mentioned the 4 major injuries, but even the other guys all missed time too. Kayvon missed, the first 3 games of his rookie season with that injury he suffered in the preseason. Neal missed a handful of games. Like, there are very few guys that were actually able to stay on the field for the full 17 games, which might have hindered, their growth as a rookie.
I mean, the only guy that really didn't get hurt in that class was Micah McFadden, right? Over the course of his career. And I think, didn't he his season end early too with a neck? Didn't he have a neck that year or something like that? Or am I wrong about that? I vaguely remember a late season injury for McFadden one of these years. I could be wrong about that.
It might have been last year towards the end of the season.
Maybe. It's possible. Yeah, in 2022 he played 17 games. So, yeah, maybe not. He played 16 games last year, so maybe not. He's really been the only guy that's been able to stay healthy.
Yeah, but that's actually.
Sorry for interrupting. I apologize.
No, you're good. I actually did not even realize that 4 of the 11 picks from that year had torn their ACLs that season.
Oh, it's crazy.
That's crazy. You don't.
And then Bellinger had the eye
very often,
right? So, Davidson, McKeithen, Beavers all tore their ACLs. Wandell Robinson tore his ACL. Josh Azudu's had also. He had a season-ending injury that year too, right? He had the foot, if I'm not mistaken, right? Evan Neal had a season-ending injury at the end of the year that year. So, yeah, look, they've had a lot of bad luck. And the other thing I've said about that 2022 class as well, and Jonathan, appreciate the call, it's not going to go down as this fantastic class either. Charles Cross has struggled this year when he's played. Ike Ekwonu has struggled this year when he's played. The receivers have looked pretty good, right? The Drake Londons and Chris Olaves, those have worked out. Jordan Davis, Kenyon Green, Jahan Dotson, Zion Johnson, Treylon Burks, Trevor Penning hasn't started until this year in his 3rd season. He has not been able to hold the starting spot. Kenny Pickett, Trenton McDuffie's been pretty good. Quay Walker's been okay. Kyra Elam might be out of the league. I'm not even sure if he's even on a roster right now. Tyler Smith, he's been good in Dallas. Linderbaum's been pretty good. But you go down that list, and it just was not one of these draft classes where the Giants passed on a bunch of these great players at the same position to select Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau. It's just not the way it worked that particular year, which is, by the way, I'm not even sure this year's class is as good as this class was. Because this class had Aiden Hutchinson at the top, Sauce Gardner at the top, Derek Stingley at the top. I don't think this class has that type of high-end talent in it, to be honest with you. So it's something you have to talk about. You can only pick from the players that are available to you, right? Like, you can't make up players that, they should have picked this. They should just pick better players. Well, who's available to them? And aside from, again, that group of wide receivers, you're not picking a safety at 4, at 5 or 7. You're just not going to do that with Kyle Hamilton. So there just weren't a lot of guys that were there for the Giants to take that were considered worthy of that pick besides the guys that they selected that were better than the guys they picked.
Yeah, I mean, outside of, that group of wide receivers that got selected between, picks 8 through 12?
Yeah.
Which was Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jamison Williams. Outside of those kind of group, you look at the rest of the first round, Kyle Hamilton is great, but again, as you mentioned, you're not picking a safety that high. Who else stands out in the rest of that first round? I mean, obviously looking back, Trent McDuffie at 21, he's obviously great, but
no one thought of him as a top 10
he was
pick.
He was never going to go in the top 10 ever in that situation. Like George Karlaftis, he was considered one of the top edge rushers, but again, everyone thought he was going to be a late first round pick. If the Giants had picked him at 5 or 7,
and I don't think he's been better than Kayvon.
He hasn't even been great. He's been
He's been
good.
fine.
He's shown flashes.
Solid starter.
Same as Kayvon. And obviously you could then go into the second round and find some players that have hit, but
you can't do that, though. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Right.
You could go through any draft any year and pick guys on day 2 and day 3 that were great. Doesn't mean, looking back, it's easier to say, oh, we should have picked that guy when at the time, they went where they were supposed to go.
Well, let me give you an idea. Right after Wan'Dale Robinson got picked in the second round, I'm going to roll through some names for the folks out there, okay? John Mechie, David Ojabo, Josh Paschal, Fidarian Mathis, Jaquan Brisker, Alante Taylor, Tyquan Thornton. That's the next 7 players. Then you get to Cam Jorgens, George Pickens, who has some personality issues, Alec Pierce, Sky Moore, and then you get to Trey McBride, Sam Williams, Luke Gedicke, Troy Anderson, Ed Ingram, Cam Taylor-Britt, Drake Jackson. I mean, look at the guys that aren't even starters on that list that I just rolled through. Some of them are. We just saw Taylor this year for the Saints. He's now their starting corner. Hasn't had a great year, but again, you're not looking at obvious guys where you're, oh, man, how'd you not pick that guy? You know what I mean? So you can only pick the guys that are available.
I mean, the best pick in that second round could end up being the guy who was selected with the last pick in the round, Nick Bonito from the Broncos.
Yeah,
he's having a great year.
And it's taken him a while to get going, too. You've had some good running backs in that round, right? James Cook, Kenneth Walker.
But at that time, you got to remember.
You got Saquon.
The Giants had Saquon.
Brees Hall was in that, too.
And, Saquon ended up playing 2 more seasons after this draft. You were going to pick a second round running back and have him sit 2 full seasons?
No, you were not.
No. So,
and again, that doesn't mean that the results have been great and it's been perfect, but you have to just look at the other guys that were available, especially at those same positions at the time, and it is what it is. Let's go to Wilson in Roxbury. Wilson, how are you, sir?
Johnny, listen.
Wilson, I'm impressed, man. I didn't realize you were in the type of income bracket to pay for a plane with a sign, man. I'm very impressed.
Listen, Johnny, I got better things to do to spend my money on that. But listen, since you brought it up, Johnny. Before that, I want to tell you my Christmas present to you guys. Listen, I'm gonna give you a break. I'm not gonna call until the end of the season. I don't want to depress you anymore. So
Wilson, I love hearing from you. You're fun. You have your strong opinions, but that's fine, and that's okay. Everyone has their opinions. That's okay.
All right. So before I get why I'm not gonna give you a little break in that call. Listen. All kidding aside, though, Brian Dable and Joe Shea, man, they keep checking those marks. Now, 50 years, we got a plane flying over, and we're 15 points underdogs at home. But hey, for some crazy reason, a lot of people think that they should come back. But hey, I'm just gonna wait till the end of the season to see what happens. If they come back, Johnny, I'm gonna tell you this right now, though. If they come back, I'm gonna root for the Giants.
I know you are, Wilson. I know you are.
And I'm gonna root for them to do a good job. Am I gonna tell you that I have confidence? No, I don't. I'm not gonna lie to you. And is it gonna be like a juice next year? I'm gonna be juiced up? No, I'm not. And another thing, I saw all the quarterbacks. I saw a little bit of football. Because I didn't work. I saw a lot of the quarterbacks that supposedly the Giants are targeting. We got rid of Daniel Jones for this kid. They look like high school kids, and we got rid of a 6'5", 235 quarterback that runs over all defensive linemen. But hey, maybe they know more football than me. But Johnny, can I tell you why I don't want to call anymore? And don't get mad at me. Can I tell you why?
Sure. Pearson.
All right.
I know Pearson's very unpleasant when he screens your calls.
Crazy. It's nothing
No?
No, it's nothing crazy.
Okay.
It's nothing crazy.
I assumed it was Pearson.
I don't want to say stuff about the head coach and general manager anymore, Danny, because you got a relationship and I don't want to say something, Danny, that is going to jeopardize because I like calling you guys. I have fun, man. At the end of the day, it's just fun, man. It's just a show about football. It's not life and death. You know what I mean?
That is true, Wilson. Yes.
And I love you, man. I love Matt. So I don't want to keep saying something that cause even though it's just football, sometimes I get upset, man, and I say stuff like that. So I'm just gonna like Paulie said the other day, Johnny. I'm just gonna wait, man, till the end of the month, till the end of the season. And like you said to me, John Mara's gonna make the choice that John Mara's gonna make, and I'll live with it. And that's why, Johnny, because I don't want to call about the games, man. Because to tell you the truth, Johnny, I don't know if you believe this. To me, there's 4 games. To me, it's pointless, Johnny. I mean, what is the point? I mean, I'm not gonna. You know what? If I tell you something, last week it was the first time in God knows how long I didn't watch the game. I actually went out. I had to take care of some stuff. I went out with my wife to the mall and stuff like that. I didn't watch the game, Johnny, and I haven't missed the game, because I wanted to, in over 10 years. Because it's not even I don't even get upset anymore if they lose. So it's been a rough year, Johnny, and it's been a rough year to even watch it. Even though it's not life and death, I do like to have fun on Sundays,
Nah, Wilson,
so
look, we hear you, man.
But the main thing I want to say is, listen, Merry Christmas to you, to Matt, to Paulie, to everybody, to Pearson. Happy New Year, and again, man, I'll listen, and then I'll call after John Mara's conference, Johnny. But I just want to say, with the bottom of my heart, man, I love you guys, and just Merry Christmas again, Happy New Year, all that good stuff to everybody there, and Johnny, all this crazy stuff that I say, Johnny, it's all in good fun.
Oh, I don't, Wilson.
Right?
I know it, man. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas. I'm glad he's found some peace of mind. I like that.
Yes, thank you, Wilson.
It's very zen.
His heart grew 3 sizes.
And Wilson, we love you too, man. You know that. Charlie needs to find the type of peace of mind that Wilson has found. It's very zen approach by Wilson. Go out, do a little Christmas shopping with the wife. Smart move. If the game's just going to irritate you, which understandable.
Yeah.
Go enjoy your weekend. That's okay.
Only thing I'm going to touch on there is what he said about some of the college quarterbacks.
You're going to make him call back now. You know that. Right? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Nothing I'm going to say here is going to be too crazy, but just of the college quarterbacks, there's 2 that are widely considered above the rest going into this draft, Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. And say what you want about them, they're not 100% perfect prospects,
and they aren't 6'4", 230.
Yes,
they aren't that.
They are not. At the same time, Cam Ward is a Heisman finalist, coming off a very strong season. They lead the country in passing touchdowns, 36, dual threat. It's not nothing.
And Cam Ward has every requisite physical skill you would want on an NFL quarterback.
Yes.
He doesn't have an A+ arm, but he can make all the throws. He's got a very creative arm. Arm talent is kind of the expression people use now for that.
And when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, again, not a perfect prospect. You rarely come across a 100% perfect prospect, but he's a very accurate, strong arm passer. He's not going to give you like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts rushing numbers.
He's very accurate. I don't know how strong of an arm that he has. But
very, very accurate.
He's very accurate.
Finishing his collegiate career, I believe, with the highest completion percentage ever.
I was saying this at lunch the other day, and it's funny. You would think, I'm trying to educate some of the people that maybe don't watch a lot of college football, and they're getting into it late, and they know the names, but they don't really know what the players are about. And you would think that being the son of Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders is this like plus athlete that's running around and doing crazy stuff with a cannon and running for 1,000,000 yards and throwing off his back foot and making these unbelievable plays. I ain't Shedeur Sanders. Like, he is a polished, really well coached pocket quarterback. That's what he is.
Would you say it's fair to not, apples to apples comparison, but in the recent drafts of quarterbacks,
Good question.
like a CJ Stroud, like that type of
Yes,
quarterback?
I think that's fair. And I would even, again, not to the same level of quarterback in terms of ability, but in terms of his skill set and his athletic gifts. I think he's Joe Burrow-ish to me.
Right.
Because Burrow doesn't have a Josh Allen arm. He doesn't
No.
have an A+ arm. He has like a B arm, but it's more than good enough.
Oh, yeah.
Accurate. Not a huge runner where he's going to run like Lamar Jackson, but he
can run.
But he can run.
Yeah.
Right? I think Burrow might actually be a little bit of a better athlete than Sanders is, to be honest with you. But that type of player, like, yeah, I would say that category of guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think any NFL team across the league would accept even if it's a slightly worse version of Joe Burrow.
Well, and again, I'm not, just talking
saying
physical package, not talking about how they play
No,
football.
for sure.
Right.
Shedeur would have to reach his ceiling of potential to obviously get to that level, but there isn't a team across the league that wouldn't take a quarterback like that, especially one that is in need of a quarterback, obviously. Not if you have Josh Allen, you're not going to go out and draft a quarterback, of course. But, yeah, so that's all I wanted to touch on with the quarterbacks, those two in the draft. And then that doesn't even, touch on guys like, Jalen Milroe, who won't go probably won't go in the top 3, but
Sorry, and I went to Joe Burrow's combine profile to check his height and weight measurements at NFL.com. Auto played some type of highlight video without that music on it. I apologize. Joe Burrow, by the way, 6'3.5", 221 at the combine. I think Shedeur is like 6'2", 215 on the Colorado website.
okay, so
Now,
similar.
We'll
But
see.
those are also
We will see
tend
how
to be slightly inflated numbers.
we will
on
see
the-
how accurate the
on the
Colorado
college
website
website.
is. Yeah, so we'll see how that. I think, let me just get that right. 6'2", 216. So I was about right for Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah. So the point just being
now he might end up being 6'2", 205. Like, I don't know when everything is said and done, but we'll see.
Yeah. So point just being, I wouldn't call these quarterback prospects like high school athletes.
No,
mean,
I don't think that's fair.
Again,
Like, you could
They're
say
not.
Bryce Young even 2 years ago looked like a high school player just because of his stature.
I mean,
right?
his stature alone right now, he still looks like a high school quarterback.
It's funny, you saw him
just
after
in
the
terms
game.
of his size. Like,
He gave, because the Panthers played the Eagles this week, right?
Yep.
So they had a game where he was hugging Jalen Hurts after the game. And Jalen Hurts, it was like an older brother, like hugging his younger brother, like 8 years apart, not like 2 years apart, right?
Yeah.
He was just a much bigger guy.
Meanwhile, someone that size, Bryce Young has played really good football the last month and a half.
I am so happy for him.
Me too.
Very
Everyone
happy
wrote him
for
off.
I know. Good
And
for him.
He's looked, since coming back from the benching, he has looked like everything the Panthers would hoped he looked like when they drafted him first overall.
And by the way, this is against, I don't know the Chiefs' defense isn't as good as it was last year, but he did it against the Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo.
still a good defense.
He did it against Vic Fangio and the Eagles defense.
Who had been
where,
playing like potentially the number 1 defense in recent weeks.
yes, if Xavier Legette catches that pass that hits him right in the hands for a
Yep.
touchdown, he might have a game-winning, pardon the Peter Brady, I got a cold, folks. He might have had a game-winning drive against a 2-loss team.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy for Bryce Young. Also happy that me really liking Bryce Young in the draft doesn't look nearly as stupid as it did a month ago. Also a good thing, but I'm more happy for Bryce Young because by all accounts he's supposed to be a great kid
Seems like
and
it.
a great dude. Let's go to Tim in Charleston. He's up next. Hey, Tim.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We're
Been a
good.
while.
Good.
Long time no speak, Tim. How are you?
It's hard to get through it one line, my friend.
No,
Gotta get that
I feel it,
fixed
man.
For next season.
In fact, Pierce, remind me, we should
Rise.
test the other lines this afternoon to see if somehow it's clicked back in and it's working better. But we'll see. What's up, Tim?
So I got 2 quick comments. I think it was Len, it might have been Scott. I always confuse those guys for some reason. Who said she gave you guys kudos a couple of 10 days or so back about, even in a season like this, still being so professional and everything. And I wanted to answer that. Say, not only are you so professional, but you guys also still manage to have fun even in a dismal season like
No, I appreciate that, Tim. And by the way, and we've gotten a few tweets from people Everyone gets like their podcast summaries this time of year with the podcast they've listened to most, and I've gotten at least a couple from people with BBK right at the top of their list. So we appreciate, even though it's a rough year, tuning in and listening and watching. We try to keep it light and keep it entertaining and be realistic at the same time. And we hope we've accomplished that. We know it can be tough sometimes.
Yes, appreciate all the support out there. Thank you guys.
So then one more comment before I talk about Shane Gable and quickly the draft. But I just wanted to send out a happy birthday to my daughter, U.S. Navy Nuclear Chief Kathy Starkey aboard USS Eisenhower.
Very impressive. I like it.
I know she's not listening, but somebody on that giant ship might be. So
they might be.
Sort of tap on the shoulder.
The Eisenhower is the Eisenhower an aircraft carrier?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's awesome, man. Good for you. Good for her.
Congratulations. She's in charge of nuclear reactor operations in one of the reactors. So.
How did you manage to procreate a nuclear engineer, Tim? I didn't think that was possible. Well done.
We have a math gene in my family. What can I say? So, on to Shane and Dable. I feel like I just hope Mara doesn't give in to the somewhat unhinged, part of the fan base, majority of the fan base that's calling for their scalps. I think he's got a process. You're not going to hit on every draft pick. It's just not going to happen, And I think he's done a good job and he has a vision. And on the regards to Gable, I think it's the GM has to make that decision. I don't think the owner, I know it works this way, but I don't think the owner should be telling the GM, you got to get rid of that coach. I don't know if Gable he's come up snake eyes so many times since the first year. At some point, things have got to change. But that's up to Shane in my eyes.
Look, I think Joe Shane's opinion will carry a lot of weight when those conversations take place, for sure.
But, I think Shane should be given all the time he needs. I think he's building. We definitely have a stronger team, although it hasn't panned out that way. So in regards to the draft, unless, like we say, that magic word conviction, if they don't have conviction on the quarterback with one of those top picks, I hope they have a good partner with whom to trade down so that they can get a second first-round pick to the next year to put them in position to go get the guy that they want.
Just stay ahead of the Raiders, Tim. If you pick in front of the Raiders, you got a shot. You have to hope. You have to hope for the Raiders to win a couple games the rest of the year, and they have to move up to pick a quarterback. Because trust me, with their quarterback situation and Tom Brady coming on as owner, trust me, they're picking a quarterback.
Which the Raiders, in their 4 remaining games, I know they play the Jaguars and they play the Saints, who will likely be without Derek Carr.
No, yeah. I guess they haven't put him on IR yet, right, Derek Carr?
No, but the report yesterday said he's likely out at least a couple of weeks.
So let's see. I'll give you the full schedule. So they're home versus the Falcons, which, by the way, the Falcons are not playing well, so that's a winnable game for them. They are home versus the Jaguars, a winnable game for them. At the Saints, a winnable game for them. And then they close the season home versus the Chargers. The Chargers might not be playing for anything in that game either. They might have a playoff spot wrapped up at that point. So, I think, the Raiders, it's the Aiden O'Connell's out, so it'll be Gardner Minshew. He has been known to...
The latest report has actually said that O'Connell is not the injury is not as serious as they believed.
I say, it's just a bone bruise, right?
I
saw you right. I forgot about that.
There's might be an outside chance, but a chance that he could play as soon as this week, but certainly sounds like it's not season ending at the very least.
And the Raiders have been feisty this year, so I could easily see them winning a couple more games.
Well, if wherever they are, whether it's first, second, or third, if it's not the guy that they really want, I don't think that they should. I think getting the draft capital, and if they could get that, I forget his name. Was it Graham or something? The Mason Graham?
Mason Graham, the defensive tackle for Michigan. Yeah, very safe pick. He's one of the safest picks in this draft. He's a good player.
And put him next to Dexter, and he's 360. Something like that, I think you said.
No, but Graham's a little bit lighter. He's around 315, so he'd be perfect next to Dexter. That's perfect, though. You got Dexter as your size guy, then you got kind of a do-everything guy in Graham, so that could work.
Yeah, I don't know how high he'll go and if we could still get him, but I think that, and I don't get it. I think it's all the constant media and ESPN and everything else. It's like, we're Giants fans. We're used to waiting a decade or more. We're used to getting into these periods, and this flipping of coaches and GMs is just not the way to go. So that's my feeling. You guys, if I don't talk to you again, enjoy the holidays. And Matt, let's go Mets. Juan Soto time, batting third. And
don't worry, we're gonna get Christian Walker. Let's go.
that's fine. If you sign Christian Walker,
no, I am not. I'm being very sarcastic, Tim. It's okay.
But then if you sign Walker, you won't be going there for Alonso. We can bring him back at a hometown discount, maybe.
I appreciate it, Tim.
With Boris. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you, Tim.
What do you think of Alonso, by the way? Just out of curiosity, he strikes out a ton. I'm tired of watching guys strike out, which is the reason why.
I'll say that he didn't do himself any favors by having the year that he had this past season in his contract year.
He came on a little strong at the end of the year, though.
It
right?
was definitely his worst season since coming to the majors. I believe it was 2019 was his first season. This was easily his worst. However, he picked it up in the postseason. Obviously, not only that walk-off home run against the Brewers, but he had a couple of big home runs. The bat came alive in the postseason. Might have saved his, free agent value a bit.
Interesting.
Personally, and then this might be the emotional fan in me, but I very much want Pete back.
I mean, you guys do need some protection for Soto, that's for sure. I know
yes, we will be adding a bat in some capacity. Now, I would hope it is bringing Pete back because, again, the emotional side of me, I want him to be a career Met. I also want to be realistic, though, with the contract we give him. We're not going to overpay to bring him back. If anything, he might have to take a bit of the hometown discount, which the reports have said might be willing to do. So I would love to bring him back, as you said, to give Soto a little protection, big power bat. Wait and see, though. It depends. His agent Scott Boras, so the whole hometown discount thing.
Boras doesn't
tend to happen with Scott Boras.
Absolutely not. Did you see apparently like Micah Parsons says something like, "I just want to be a Cowboy. I don't care if it's like 30 or 40 million or something like that."
I did, and it's a lot easier to say that when you're not actually in the middle of contract negotiations.
Correct.
So
no, look. I mean, if I'm the Cowboys, I say, all right, here's 35. Right, it's about the same that Lamb makes, a little bit more than Bosa makes. You're at the top of the market, but you're not taking like a huge jump on top of the market, and I think you hope that he would take that.
From the Cowboys, they should have done this before this season, but stop waiting until the last second to sign these guys.
No, 100%.
You just let the market continue to get higher and higher, and then all of a sudden you have to give the record-breaking deal at the position.
Though my understanding,
and it's just not smart business. I know it keeps people talking about the Cowboys,
correct.
But like people are talking about the Cowboys no matter what.
With Dak Prescott, you're 1,000% right. That's not even this contract. That's the previous contract. That's where they screwed Prescott up. My understanding is that Lamb has the same agent as Jefferson, and he was not going to let Lamb sign before Jefferson signed to try to match
that's
the
the case then.
So I don't know if that's true or not, but I have read that. I think Todd France, or is France Prescott's agent? I don't remember. But yeah, interesting. And I'll just say this about the quarterbacks, right? I'm all in favor of trading back and stocking draft capital. That's almost always the right thing to do, unless you're picking a guy that you believe is a great franchise quarterback. And look, if they do believe one of these guys is great in a franchise quarterback, you pick him and you don't play around, right? But I'm also, given the fact there are not a lot of players at premium positions in this draft that I think are going to be stars, if you're picking like 5th or 6th, and a quarterback is there that you like but you don't love, honestly, I'm at the point where like, throw as many resources at this problem as you can. You pick the guy. If you get through a year and you don't think it's working and you're not sold on him, and then another guy you like better is available the next year, just pick another one. Like, I don't care. And then trade the guy that you picked the year before. And you might only get back a day 2 pick or whatever. That's fine. We've seen how important the quarterback position is here. We know how it's the key to everything. Do everything you can to find that guy.
So Dan Salamone and I were actually talking about this exact topic.
Do the Josh Rosen, Kyler Murray. That's exactly what it is. Do the Rosen, Kyler Murray if you have to.
The only thing that makes me hesitate with that is it is very tough to move on from a top 5 pick after 1 year. It's tough. It's tough to do that,
Oh, it's tough.
I would feel a little more comfortable.
You're in a tough business finding a quarterback.
In that hypothetical situation, if, let's say the Giants land at 1 or 2. And there's another team that has conviction on one of the quarterbacks that the Giants don't have that same conviction. They trade back a little bit, stockpile picks, potentially get that first in 2026. And then with your, first or second pick in the second round, trade back up towards the end of the first and take a chance on someone like Jalen Milroe
No,
if he's
you're-
still there. I don't know if he might
uh,
be well before that.
I think he might be. But yes.
But a quarterback like that doesn't have to be him.
I would be
'Cause
fine with that
If it is a
too.
late first-round pick, I feel like that is a little more, tolerable to potentially move on after 1 year if it's very clear that it's not going to pan out after one season. Then you're in a situation where you didn't spend a top 5 pick. It's a maybe bottom 5 in the first-round pick. Plus, you still have those extra picks in the next year's draft to, potentially move up to take another quarterback if that's the route you choose to go to.
That's
so that would
easier.
just make me feel a little bit more comfortable
Yes.
in that situation. But I do agree with you. Figuring out the quarterback position is the most important thing for any NFL team. And I agree. I'm all for taking as many swings as it takes till you find your guy. Because once you hit, then it is a lot easier to fill out the rest of your roster if you have that guy on a rookie contract, at least for the first 3-4 years. So, yeah.
That's easier. That would be more comfortable.
All around better.
If we could all go into a time machine. And again, at the time, I thought it was ludicrous. So this is 2020 hindsight, obviously. To even consider it at the time. But this is part of my thinking. You can go back in time. Wouldn't you draft Justin Herbert the year after you drafted Daniel Jones?
Yeah.
You could go in the time machine and change that.
I mean, and reports have said how much the GM at the time loved Justin Herbert when he was going into the 2019 draft, and then Herbert decided to go back to school.
Oh, I've told this story. I ran into Chris Pettit in the cafeteria the day Justin Herbert decided that he was going back to school. He looked like someone had just, burned his house down. Like he was not happy.
Yeah, and
They were fans.
Might be tough for fans to hear. I'm sure you've heard this before, but if Justin Herbert goes into that 2019 draft, there's a very good chance that he would have been selected by the Giants.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
But
I mean,
again, that's something that's
out
of everyone's control.
And again, we don't know that for sure. That's been widely reported,
reported.
obviously. But yeah, I mean, there was love for Justin Herbert. I think that's, based on all the reports, I think that's fair to say. So it is what it is. But that's why I think sometimes you have to be willing to make tough decisions. So again, it's not ideal. You never want to move on from a top 5 pick. And again, if you were staring at a Sauce Gardner or an Aiden Hutchinson.
Well, in this case, what if you're staring at like a Mason Graham?
I'm not sure he's at that level.
All right,
but,
that's fair. You know more about
correct.
this prospect
Yes,
than I do.
I understand your question, though. And luckily, we'll have another 4 months to try to figure it out. I'm still at the very beginning of this process, too. I've probably watched.
You don't even know where the Giants will be drafting yet.
I haven't done any of my final reviews, but I've been trying to watch as many guys as I can. So, anyway, it is what it is. Let's go back to the phones. We'll wrap things up with Duke in Queens. Duke, what's up?
Oh, my goodness. You just stole every single thing I was going to say.
Did I really?
Wow. Yes. Like, I was going to bring up Herbert, and I was going to bring up just waiting another year for quarterback. So I'll say this, because that was my question, and I was wondering what your thoughts on that was. And by the way, Matt, past regular caller and long-time listener, honestly, it's weird this off season in the draft. Like, there's two sort of things that's going on where it reminds me of the past. So you have Eli and Arch Manning. Arch Manning say, "No, I don't want you to draft my son Chargers." Same thing with Shador. That was back then. It's happening again this year. Then we have not necessarily the same thing, but we have a guy that I believe in from Tennessee. His name is Nico Iamaleava. And he literally reminds me of Justin Herbert, but just like the Hawaiian version and a little less muscular. And it's like, all right, he's not coming out this year. He possibly might come out next year. So just wait 1 year for him. But like Matt said just now, it's like, how do you take a quarterback this year and then, tell John Maris, okay, we're going to take another one next year? It's hard to do.
Well, no, Duke, you have to have that conversation this season. That's something you can't like jump on them. Like, as you go through the draft meetings and you talk to them about how you're thinking about this and what your strategy is, you go, look, guys, we are going to put every resource into solving this quarterback problem, okay? And it might not work. We might have some ugly decisions along the way, but we are going to put every resource into fixing this, and this is how we're going to approach it. Because you're right, if you don't bring that up, and then after you put all your support and effort behind the top 5 quarterback, and then the next year you're like, no, we're done. That's probably not going to go
You're
over
going-
well. So you have to have that conversation ahead of time.
Yes. And so, all right. So this is what I'm in favor of. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, if you're trying to catch the temperature of some fans' opinions and what some fans think, my whole thing is we should not draft a quarterback this year. I'm not a believer in any of the quarterbacks, and I think we should wait next year to draft a quarterback. And honestly, the Raiders did the same thing. They went into this year with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, and it's like, okay, it's another crap year, but at least now you have possibly the first overall pick, and you have a quarterback at the top of the draft that you can possibly take.
Yeah, but
now,
dude, you said you don't like the quarterbacks, though. So how did that work out by not picking one last year? Now you don't like the ones this year. Now you're like, oh no, what do we do?
No, but the Raiders, the Raiders might like Shador.
Well, they might.
Yes, but I'm saying I actually brought them up because of their situation going into this year.
Right.
Like they didn't have they had a journeyman backup, and then they had a guy like a mid-round pick that Aiden O'Connell as the backup to the backup. So if you tell us fans that all right, next year's class is better, and from the optics, from the outside looking in, next year's class might be a lot better, and we're going to go into this year possibly with a Jameis Winston or whoever, right? That's a good backup or whatever. I'm not going to be pissed. I just want a future. Now, it's unfortunate that all this losing is not going to lead to a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not, because that's possibly a Herbert, Burrow, Caleb Williams, even though this year's ugly. Those are things that are okay, this is light at the end of the tunnel. All this losing is going to lead to this guy. That's not the case this year. And if to me it's not for a quarterback, all this losing is for a quarterback, then I can lose some more. I've been dealing with losing for 10 years. It's fine. It's fine at this point. Trust me. But I don't want to make the same mistake that we did in 2019.
No, Duke, I hear you, but
take a guy we didn't love.
No, I get it. Real quick, don't hang up on him. Just bring his pot down there, Pearson, so he can hear my response. It's very dangerous to count on what the next year's class is going to look like. You never know what it's going to look like. You also don't know where you're going to be picking. You could have two quarterbacks you love. What happens if you fall into a couple wins like you did last year and you end up picking sixth? And you can't trade up for any of the top quarterbacks and you really love them. So it's hard to count on it that way. I'll pass on a quarterback, we'll take him next year. Well, maybe you're not going to have an opportunity to take one next year. That's why I've taken the approach. If you have the chance to do it, you do it. And then if you have to reconfigure the following year, great. Because it's hard. And Matt, we've seen this. Oh, next year the class is going to be much better. And we get there and it's like, no, it is not. Who knows when Arch Manny's even leaving school?
I was going to say, not only that, we've been talking about Justin Herbert. Everyone thought he was going to go into the 2019 draft. He decided to go back to school for his senior year. There already have been some rumblings, reports that Arch could decide to do the same thing.
I've heard he wants to do 4 years. And who knows when the Tennessee... I haven't watched the Tennessee kid, but maybe he's going to stay in school another year. I don't know.
It's a far from guaranteed that Arch or this Tennessee quarterback are definitely going to declare for the 2026 NFL draft. They could easily make the same decision that Justin Herbert did, especially with how much money these guys are making with NIL deals now. It's not like the same as a couple of years ago where you're leaving millions of dollars on the table. These guys are making... If they go back to school for their senior year, especially at a program like Texas or Tennessee, they're going to be making millions of dollars as a senior in college. So it's not guaranteed that these guys are even going to come out of the draft. So it's just a little risky to think of it that way and be like, we're going to punt on the quarterback decision until next year and then attack it in next year's draft because you just have no idea what the pool of prospects is going to be.
Yeah, attack it when you can. Again, that doesn't mean pick a player you don't like. I'm not saying that's what you should do.
You cannot do that. You cannot reach for someone.
I am very much in favor of throwing as many darts at the board because the more darts you throw, the better chance you have of hitting a bullseye.
Yeah, I mean, if it takes a couple of darts to find the next, I don't want to say the next Eli Manning, but the next quarterback that can be here for a decade, then you do it. Throw as many darts as it takes.
And if it takes 2 top picks at the top of the draft, 2 straight years, okay, that's fine. It's no different than having to trade that future pick to move up to pick a guy, right? It's the same deal.
That's true.
Just do whatever it takes to get that guy that you need. All right, thanks for being with us, everybody. By the way, did you watch any of the Simpsons cast last night at all on ESPN
I
Plus
saw
or
a
Disney Plus?
few
I did
clips
not.
of it. Just a few
Pearson,
clips.
did you? No, I didn't do it either. I was just curious what you guys thought of it. I didn't see any of it.
Dave Dominic upstairs was not too impressed.
Oh, really?
He said that the technology is not quite there yet for a full Simpsons broadcast.
Well, I remember they did it with cartoons last year, I think, right, on Nickelodeon or something like that, right, for a game, and I was not that impressed by that either. It reminds me of the old football table game where, like, the table shakes and the guys just kind of and, like, run into each other. So, apparently they have not advanced as much as you would like. For Matthew Citak, I'm John Schmeelk. That's Big Blue Kickoff Live presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. We will see you next time, everybody.